"You're wasting your time," my girlfriend said, looking at me with that familiar disapproving gaze. "This whole business thing, it's never going to work." I gave a calm nod, but inside, a fire was starting to burn. Little did she know, this waste of time would change my life forever. It's crazy how quickly everything can change, how a single moment can reshape your entire future. I was just 26, working a regular 9-to-5 job that barely paid the bills when I decided to start my online business. It wasn't much at first, just a few products I was passionate about, a website that barely worked, and an overwhelming sense of uncertainty. But it was my dream. Every waking hour, I thought about it. The late nights, the failed attempts, the research that never seemed to pay off. And Rachel? She never saw it the way I did. She didn't understand that this wasn't just a project. It was my escape, my future, the thing that could finally make me feel like I was worth something. She'd say it every time I brought it up, her words cutting through me like a sharp knife. "You're wasting your time," she'd say, dismissing everything I was working for with a single sentence. I wanted to fight back, to tell her how wrong she was, but all I could do was nod and keep going. After all, what else was I supposed to do? I was determined. But even I had to admit, there were moments when I questioned whether she might be right. Was I really just spinning my wheels? Was I heading for failure, no matter how hard I worked? The answers didn't come easily, but the fire inside me never went out. And little did I know, one day, I'd show up at a party, a private limo pulling up, and the last person I'd expect to see would be standing there, wide-eyed and speechless, as she realized I wasn't the failure she once thought. The next few months felt like a constant battle. I spent every waking moment trying to turn my dream into something real. I was still working that dead-end job at the retail store, the one that drained me mentally and physically. But every night I was awake, eyes glued to the screen, working on my business. I remember the nights when Rachel would come home after her day at the office, tired but not as drained as I felt. She'd ask how my business was going, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. She'd say, "Still nothing? Are you sure this is worth it? Maybe it's time to just give up and get a real job, like everyone else." Her words stung, every single time. I tried to brush them off, but it was hard when the person I loved the most didn't believe in me. I'd sit there, holding my phone in my hand, scrolling through messages, looking for inspiration or some sort of validation from anyone but her. It wasn't that I didn't love her. I did. But I couldn't help feeling like I was carrying this massive weight alone, and every time she spoke, that weight got heavier. There was a particularly tough week, a moment that made me question everything. I had a big sales meeting scheduled with a potential investor, someone I thought could take my business to the next level. I spent days preparing for it, refining the pitch, practicing, imagining how it would all unfold. But when the day finally came, the investor canceled at the last minute, leaving me with nothing but the empty room and my shattered hopes. Rachel, sensing my frustration, came home to find me pacing the apartment, barely able to contain my anger. When she asked what was wrong, I told her about the cancellation. And, as usual, instead of comforting me or trying to lift my spirits, she said something that hit me harder than I could have imagined. "Maybe it's for the best. Maybe this is just the universe telling you that this business isn't going to happen. You should have known better than to get your hopes up." I don't know why it hurt so much. Maybe it was because I had put everything I had into this dream, and she, the one person who was supposed to be my biggest supporter, couldn't see it. Or maybe it was because I felt like I was failing not just at business, but at the one relationship that should have meant the most to me. I remember the night I decided enough was enough. After weeks of hearing Rachel's doubts, I sat there in the darkness of our apartment, the weight of her words echoing in my mind. I thought about what she'd said, about how she didn't believe in me, and about how the world seemed to be telling me to quit. I thought about all the nights I'd spent alone, working while she slept, wondering if it was even worth it. And in that moment, I made a choice, a hard one. I decided I was going to prove everyone wrong. I was going to make this business succeed, no matter the cost, no matter who doubted me. I couldn't control Rachel's opinions, but I could control how far I pushed myself, and I wasn't going to stop. I pushed through the doubts, the tiredness, the exhaustion. I invested in better marketing, refined my product offerings, and spent money I didn't have to make this business work. Every sale, no matter how small, felt like a victory. Every late-night conversation with a customer, every email response was a step toward proving that I wasn't wasting my time. But the hardest part was the emotional toll it took. My relationship with Rachel deteriorated further. We were constantly fighting, constantly at odds. She began resenting my business, my dedication to it. It felt like she was drifting further away, and for the first time I started wondering if we could make it through this. I thought back to the first time I met her, how easy everything had been then, how we had dreams together. But now, those dreams felt worlds apart. She didn't understand the sacrifices I was making, the loneliness that came with chasing something bigger than both of us, and I didn't know if she ever would. The distance between us grew as my business slowly started showing signs of life. Every step forward in my company felt like a step backward in our relationship. And still, I kept going, believing that if I just pushed hard enough, it would all come together in the end. But deep down, I knew the inevitable was coming. I could either give up on my business, on my dreams, and try to salvage what was left of us, or I could keep pushing forward, knowing that this journey could end with me standing alone. But in that moment, there was no other option. I wasn't about to give up on myself, not for anyone, not for Rachel. It was another late night, and I was staring at my laptop screen, feeling the burn in my eyes as I tried to fix a glitch on my website that had been messing with sales for days. Every time I thought I had it figured out, something new popped up. It felt like I was putting in all this effort just to keep the business from collapsing, and I was still barely scraping by. My balance sheet barely covered my bills, and I was constantly worried about the next crisis that would threaten to derail everything. Rachel had stopped coming home most nights. She'd leave for hours, disappearing into who knows where, only to come back late with her mind elsewhere. And I couldn't blame her. We were both living in separate worlds now, and every time we spoke, it was like we were strangers. I could see the look in her eyes, the disappointment, the frustration. I wasn't who she had hoped I would be. I wasn't the man she wanted me to be. But the worst part? I wasn't even sure if I knew who I was anymore. I remember the night that changed everything. I was at my desk, huddled in the corner of our dimly lit living room, and Rachel came in after another late night. She didn't say hello or ask how my day had been. Instead, she stood in the doorway, her arms folded across her chest. She didn't even look at me directly, just stared at the floor, the silence between us thicker than it had ever been before. "I'm done," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I can't keep doing this. I've been patient, but you're still stuck in the same place. You're obsessed with this business, and it's ruining us. I can't do it anymore." I froze. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I didn't react. My mind was spinning. Was this really happening? Was she really leaving? It wasn't that I hadn't seen it coming. There had been too many late-night arguments, too many moments where she made it clear she couldn't understand my obsession. But hearing the words come from her mouth made it all too real. She walked past me without another word, heading toward the bedroom, and for a moment I just sat there. I felt like I was suffocating. But then something inside me snapped. I realized something that I hadn't before. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. It was about my dreams, my future, my belief in what I was doing. I couldn't let it all go just because she didn't understand. I couldn't let my failure to make this work be the thing that defined me. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest, and walked into the bedroom. She was sitting on the bed, looking at her phone, her back turned to me. For a moment, I thought about walking away, letting her go, and saving what little was left of my pride. But then I spoke. "I'm not quitting," I said, my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. "I won't stop. This business, this dream, this is who I am. If you don't want to be part of that, I understand, but I can't be someone I'm not. I'm going to make this work, Rachel. I will make this work. She didn't answer. She didn't even look up. But I could feel the finality of the moment. It wasn't just the end of us. It was the end of a version of me that had tried to fit into someone else's idea of what life should be. I had always tried to make her happy, to make her proud. But somewhere along the way, I had forgotten what I wanted. That night, I made a decision. I knew I couldn't keep doing this, living in this limbo where I was constantly torn between what I wanted and what she wanted. I couldn't keep sacrificing my own vision for the sake of someone else's comfort. If Rachel couldn't see the value in what I was doing, then I had to do it for myself. So I made the hard choice to move forward, no matter what. I wasn't going to let fear of failure or the fear of losing her hold me back. I was done living in the shadows of my own doubts. I was going to push harder than ever before. I took a step back the next day and completely reworked my business strategy. I invested in better marketing, hired the team I needed, and made bold decisions that pushed me out of my comfort zone. The shift didn't happen overnight, but slowly things started to change. The sales came in. I had customers, real ones, who were actually paying for my products. My brand started gaining momentum. But the hardest part? Letting go of Rachel. Letting go of the person I had once thought would be the one to celebrate my success with me. I never imagined that she'd be the one to walk away first. But in the end, I realized that sometimes the hardest thing you have to do in life isn't just pushing yourself forward. It's knowing when to let go of things and people who don't support your growth. And as I watched her leave, I knew I was making the right choice. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing someone else's dream. I was chasing mine. It had been 2 years since that night. 2 years of grinding, of sleepless nights, of pushing through failure after failure, only to wake up the next morning and do it all over again. But this time, there was something different in the air. My business was no longer a fragile dream. It was real, tangible, alive. The brand I had worked tirelessly to build was starting to get recognition. Orders were flowing in, partnerships were forming, and the investors I'd once begged to take a chance on me were now the ones chasing me. My name was starting to pop up in business circles, my products were in the hands of influencers, and everything was finally coming together. It was the day of the launch party for my biggest deal yet, the one that would solidify everything I had worked for, the one that would prove to everyone, including myself, that I wasn't just another guy with a pipe dream. I had been invited to the event, but I wasn't just attending as a guest. I was the guest of honor. As I stood in front of the grand mansion where the party was being held, a private limo pulling up in front of the red carpet, I couldn't help but smile. I'd been through so much to get here. The rejection, the doubts, the loneliness, all of it had led to this moment. And for once, it wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about showing myself that I was worthy of the success I had worked so hard for. I walked inside, the weight of the invitation still surreal in my hands. The music thumped in the background and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. There were people everywhere, business moguls, celebrities, influencers, and journalists, all gathered to celebrate the latest big thing in the industry. As I stepped through the door, heads turned. The recognition was instant, but what truly took me by surprise was seeing her, Rachel. She was standing by the bar, laughing with a group of people, wearing the kind of dress that screamed sophistication and elegance. She didn't see me at first, but I saw her, just like I remembered, but different. There was something about her that seemed more distant, more hollow, as if she'd been living in a world that was as empty as the one we had built together. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. I wasn't here for revenge, not really. I was here for me. But there was something so poetic about this moment, about showing up at the same place where she had once dismissed everything I worked for, now standing in the midst of the success she had doubted. As I made my way across the room, I could feel eyes on me, but I didn't care. My focus was on her now. The moment I reached her, I couldn't help but notice the slight flicker of surprise in her eyes when she finally saw me. She tried to hide it behind a forced smile, but I knew better. She had no idea who I had become. "Ethan," she said, almost too casually, "I didn't expect to see you here." I smiled, not wanting to break the tension too quickly. "Well, it's kind of hard to miss an event like this." She nodded, taking in my appearance, the suit I wore, the confidence that radiated off me now. The contrast between who I was when I left and who I was now was evident, and I could tell that it was starting to sink in for her. I didn't need to say much more. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a VIP pass, and handed it to her. "Here, you'll probably want to make the most of this event." Her eyes widened slightly. "A VIP pass?" I gave her a small smile. "I thought you'd like to see what you've been missing." And just like that, the silence between us grew heavier. She took the pass, but there was no immediate response. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of confusion and recognition as the weight of the moment settled in. Before she could say anything else, I turned to walk away, but not without feeling the weight of her gaze on my back. I had never expected closure from Rachel. But this felt like the ending I needed. The ending where I didn't need her approval. The ending where I didn't need anyone to believe in me except for myself. I walked further into the room, knowing full well that my success wasn't about showing Rachel or anyone else how far I had come. It was about knowing that I had made it, that I had created something from nothing, and that I was the one in control of my future. And that feeling, that was worth more than anything I could have imagined. The night continued, but I wasn't really there anymore. I had already given myself what I needed, proof that I could do it, proof that all those sleepless nights, all the sacrifices, all the moments of doubt, it had been worth it. Rachel didn't approach me again. She stayed with her group, and I stayed with mine. There was no animosity between us, no shouting, no confrontation. It was just over. It wasn't that I didn't care anymore, but it was different now. She was no longer part of my journey, and that was something I had come to accept. As the night wore on, I found myself standing at the edge of the party, watching everyone else mingle. They all seemed so certain of their places in the world, so comfortable in their success. But I realized something important. I wasn't like them. I wasn't born into money or influence. I wasn't the smartest or the most well-connected. But none of that mattered. What had gotten me here, what had gotten me to this moment, was relentless belief. Belief that I was capable of more, even when no one else thought so. I thought about Rachel, about all the things she had said. I thought about how much I had once cared about her opinion, how much I had tried to shape my life around her. But standing here now, surrounded by success, I could see that I had built something much stronger than any relationship could offer. I had built my future. The lesson was clear. Believe in yourself when no one else does. People will doubt you, they'll question your choices, they'll tell you to stop wasting your time. But it's up to you whether you let their doubts become your reality. For a long time, I had let Rachel's words echo in my head, letting her fear dictate my future. But not anymore. I was done living for others' expectations. This was my life, my success, my story. It didn't matter that Rachel had walked away. It didn't matter that she couldn't see my vision, that she couldn't believe in me the way I needed her to. Because in the end, I didn't need anyone to validate my worth. I had done this on my own. I left the party that night with my head held high, knowing I had built something real. Something that would outlast the doubts, the heartaches, the people who had told me I couldn't do it. The truth was, I was exactly who I had always hoped to be. Not perfect, not infallible, but someone who never gave up, no matter how many times life knocked me down. And for the first time in a long time, I was at peace, because I knew that no matter where I went, I had proven something to myself. I was enough. I was worthy. And nothing anyone said or did could take that away.